Hello guys, my name is Baby Rabbi, and in this guide, I'm going to be giving you my top 9 things I wish I knew before starting Tribe 9. Now that we're a few days after the release of the game, I see a lot of people saying online that they're confused about some of the game's mechanics. It can be easy to be overwhelmed by the game's quests, cards, systems. It's all a lot to take in. Hopefully this video simplifies some stuff for you, and if it helped you out, leave a like and subscribe down below. Alright, let's get into it. So the first thing is using your boosters too early. You're not going to get optimal rewards if you use your boosters before a certain level. The rewards that you get from the rifts, especially the Patamon, are going to be based on your current amount of 0 stickers that you have. If you don't have enough stickers, you can't get tier 4 Patamon, you can't get tier 5 Patamon, and you have a lower chance of getting Patamon that have compatible skills with the characters that you're running. Because only gold Patamon have the ability to buff the skills of your characters, and those are the most important things when team building, you don't want to use your boosters too early. It's okay to use a couple of them if you're trying to get certain materials to ascend your characters or your tension cards, but try not to use them all in one place when you have less than, I would say, 60-65 stickers. Because at that point, you're using your boosters and you're going to get Patamon that you're going to throw away very soon, and it's not worth it. Alright, so next up is that your support point matters, and the order that you use your break attacks in is dependent on that. This is something that I've seen a lot of people, even good players, doing wrong, is they get a break on their opponent, and they just press 1, 2, 3. They just do the character they're playing, the next character, the next character. It's important to understand that the order that you're doing your chain attacks in actually matters. Some characters are designed to go first, so that they buff up the other characters. For example, if you're using Tsuki, her chain attack makes it so that every member of the team, after she does hers, gets Courage. Courage increases everybody's crit rate by 10%. That gives you a much higher chance for the other 2 characters to crit on their break attacks. So if you're using her last, even though she's usually in your 3rd slot, you're using her wrong. It's also important to check the support point of your tension cards and of your Patamon, because this can also determine what order your characters should attack in. It's important to remember that support point increases the damage of the next chain skill that happens, not the current one. So if you're going to have any kind of support on your team, from your support characters or from your tension cards, you want to make sure that you're using them in a way so that whoever is your highest damage dealer gets to attack last usually. That way you're going to get the most amount out of your support points. Next up is that it's important to remember that tension cards only activate when you have certain amounts of tension. You can see how much tension a card needs by looking in the top left. If you go into where your tension cards are, you see these little numbers here. This tells you when it activates. You'll see that the current set I'm running right now is 4 zeros and then a single 1. This is my overworld build. I'll talk about this more in the next tip. But essentially, you're going to want to have a setup that works for your team composition. I've seen a lot of people just equipping all their best ones. They equip all their best character ones, but a lot of these activate at 2 or at EX. Usually you're only going to get these in boss fights, which means that most of the time you're not even activating your cards. If you're going into fights and you're not consistently getting to tension 2, which usually in most of the overworld like kind of trash mob fights, you're only going to be getting 1, if anything, so you're not even using your tension cards. So make sure you're paying attention to when your cards activate. If it feels like your cards aren't doing a lot, it might be because you're not consistently hitting a high enough tension level for them to be worth it, because those cards are usually for specific situations and not for regular combat. This leads into my next point, which is that everybody should be running 2 teams at the very least. 1 team for the overworld and 1 team for boss fights and tougher enemies. This way you don't have to constantly modify your teams. And then you have 1 build, the overworld build, with a lot of tension 0 and tension 1 cards, because you're going to be quickly going into fights, you're going to be annihilating your enemies pretty fast, and then you're going to have a second build where you can have your tension 2 and your EX cards, and that's where you're going to be focused more on actually having like an end goal, dragging the fights out for longer. If you're fighting things like the Shark, if you're fighting things like some of the later game bosses, this will be better for that. And then your overworld team, those are really good for the rift, because the only fight that's really going to last long is the last one. So you're going to be able to clear the rifts much faster if you have a lot of tension 0 and 1 cards that just buff up your crit rate, buff up your damage. Even if the teams are similar or they share characters, that's fine. Don't worry about that too much. Worry about having different cards and utilizing a team that has your 0 and 1s and a team that utilizes your 1s, 2s, and EXs so that you have two malleable teams that can do different things. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run. Next tip is a short one, but a really simple one that I think a lot of people have actually not realized. If you're using trial characters, and I've seen a lot of people using them, they do not count for Zero Sensei missions. If you're trying to do some of the longer missions, like defeating 800 enemies in Shinagawa, trial characters do not count for that. Any enemies that they kill, anything that they complete, trial characters most of the time are not going to add to that counter. So if you can, as soon as possible, try to start using your own characters. Trial characters can be nice to just kind of clear the content a little bit faster, but try to use your own characters so that some of those longer missions get their progress done before you are even thinking about it, you know? Next up is something that changed about 2 days after release that I think is important enough to mention because I don't know if a lot of people actually realize this change. I saw on day one a lot of people were leaving negative reviews on the game's Steam page, saying that the game's daily missions didn't give any entity rewards like they did in the beta. As of the second day of release, they've actually patched this so that now every daily will give you 40 entities every time you do it. So if you do 3 dailies a day, that's 120 entities. That's an entire single pull every single day, which means you're getting 30 pulls a month just from doing your dailies. So if you're new to the game and you're looking at reviews, you're looking at social media posts, and I've heard some people say that they were confused by this. People are going to say things like, you're going to see outdated posts. They're going to say the dailies don't give you anything. They do now. So do not skip your dailies, because I saw some people on the Steam forum saying, just skip your dailies, they're not worth it. Do not skip your dailies. They give you a single pull every single day now. Next up, I know it's simple, but I think it's really important to mention. Always read your character's abilities. Lots of characters have little details that you may be neglecting if you don't fully read their ability descriptions. I've seen a lot of people just kind of skim over descriptions. I've seen a lot of people just kind of playing the character they think is the right way, and they miss out on little details that optimize their game plan. For example, something I've seen a lot of people doing with Yutaka is that as soon as they gain his ultimate, they just fire it because the laser beam does a ton of damage. But if you actually read the description to his ultimate, it gains a 1% crit rate for every stack of charge you have from firing your secondary attack. So, if you use his right click, the secondary attack, the big purple laser beam, before using the ultimate, you can actually bring the crit rate up to 40%. This means that running crit damage on him can just be insane, because you can just straight up have 40% crit rate on the laser beam. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have Tsuki do her chain skill to give everybody courage, that's another 10% crit rate. Then you have your tension cards that can give you crit rate, like Full Party, Surprise Attack. You can easily net yourself above a 55% crit rate just from using the laser beam before his ultimate, and I don't see a lot of people doing that. A lot of tension cards are also designed around the buffs and debuffs that specific characters can give, so make sure you're looking at what buffs and debuffs characters have on their skills, because that can help you a lot with determining what Patamon and what tension cards to give them, because there are certain skills you may want to focus on more than others, and you won't know which ones to focus on if you don't fully understand the stats and the buffs that your characters can give. This next point here is a simple one, but for any graffiti that you found throughout the city, mark down where you found it. Currently there isn't a resource to list where all the graffiti is, but once we have something like that, if there's any graffiti you're missing, and you're just scrambling because you can't find it, it's going to be so much easier in the future if you have it written down which ones you already have, because then you're not just going to be checking all 100 spots. You're going to know what you already have. So definitely, whenever you find graffiti, either make a mental note or write down somewhere, maybe in a text document, just somewhere that you have gotten that graffiti before. And then the final point is just kind of more of a breather, but don't stress about doing the gacha right off the bat. If you're doing your dailies, you do all of Shinagawa, you're going to walk out with a couple thousand entities. And that's not mentioning things you're going to get in your inbox from the release, the maintenance, from the updates, from reaching number 1 on the App Store. You're going to end with a couple thousand entities, and you're going to be in a very comfortable situation. Don't pressure yourself to gacha. To start the game, you're going to get Yo, you're going to get Tsuki, and you're going to get Koishi. that team can clear all content in the game right now. When you get to the very end, you may start to struggle a little bit, but 99% of content right now, that team can clear just fine. In my personal opinion, if you want to pull a specific character, yeah, I'm not going to stop you. Play the game however you want. I think the game's well balanced enough right now that you can play and main any character, and you can make almost all content work. But I would probably say try to pull until you have a 3-star, and no matter which one you get, they're all good right now. I would say try to build up that 3-star, because just having any of them, doesn't matter if you get Semba, you get Q, you get Kazuki, you get Gio, you get Miu. Any 3-star you get right now, you're pretty much going to be set for a bit. Even without any additional copies of them, they're super strong base form, you know? Me personally, I did 80 pulls, I got my pity 3-star, and I got Gio, and I started building around him, and I haven't been struggling at all with content. If you get a 3-star, your account is going to be set for this first couple of patches. I think it's good to just pull for now, and then hold on, but do whatever you think is best for you. That's just personally what I would say is probably the best to do right now. Don't spend too much on this first banner. Get a 3-star, build around that, and set up your account. Because just based on like how other gachas I've played in the past have gone, as the meta develops, you're gonna want to hold on to a couple of entities. That's just personally what I think. Alright guys, so that was my 9 tips for things I wish I knew before starting Tribe 9. Thank you guys for watching this video all the way through. If this video gets enough love, I'd be happy to make another one of these. I got more videos coming out in the future. If any of these helped you, please comment down below, tell me which one it was. That's it for the first video on the channel. I'll catch you guys in the future.